Hey there, this is Pam Perry with another Pam Perry's books. So, picks about my favorite books. And so, this one is from a friend from a long time ago. We've known each other probably over a couple of decades, but she is got a brand new book, thick book. Oh my God. And this is, let me tell you a little bit about it because I'm not real familiar with it, but it is called Afrofuturism. And this is a genre of books. This is my first Afro futurism book that I've had. It's a genre that centers Black history and culture and incorporates science fiction, technology, and futuristic elements into literature, music, and visual arts. So, this is like a very first for me. I'm so excited to have Denise Crittendon today join us. Yay! All the way from Las Vegas. She used to be in Detroit. Give you a little bit of background about Denise, and we've known each other for a long time. Former journalist, I guess you would say you former journalist, always a journalist, but a
Right.
veteran journalist at this point. Founding editor of the former African American Family Magazine, award-winning lifestyle magazine for Black families that was in Detroit, and she is also known for positive thoughts and self-help column that appeared once a month in the Detroit News. So that's just a little bit about her. Congratulations on this book. This is not her first book, but this is the first book in this genre, I guess you
Right.
could say.
Right. Yeah.
And give us a little bit of background, if you don't mind, if you're not going to be too embarrassed about me telling the age that you debuted this novel.
It's okay.
Okay, all right, all right. Because
Right.
that's inspiring for people. So she's been writing her whole life and she's had other books. The other books are down here as well, but they were like nonfiction books, and they were kind of like self-help books, and they were really motivational books. But this one is, like I said, was a new genre, and she's probably been working on this a while. And she finally debuted this book at age 70. I know she looks like she's about like 40ish, right? But this was her baby that she birthed at her 40th birthday party. Saw it all over Facebook, and first of all, I did not realize that you were 70. I was like, 70 is a new 50. Like, what is that about? And then you're doing this book. So tell us about how long it took for you to figure that it's a new genre to me. So maybe it's not new to you, but why you wanted to do a book like this.
Well, Pam, as you know, I was a journalist all those years, but what people didn't know is that I've always had this way out imagination. And so some people were like, what in the world's going on, Denise? I didn't know this about you. I've known you all these years, but it's always was always there. But as a journalist, you're dealing with facts. And I loved being a newspaper reporter when I was with the Detroit News, and I loved being a magazine editor, but always in the back of my mind. And I would have dreams, these like really crazy dreams. I wasn't in the dreams. They were just dreams that were about other worlds. And I
Mm-hmm.
would jot them down and then go to work. And this book, Where It Rains in Color, was inspired by a dream I had of a woman standing alone on a cliff, and these beings, these translucent beings, were taunting her and saying, "We sentence you to the keloid planet." I didn't know what all of that meant. She talked about the Anekoteth. I had to find out what it meant when I had a chance to dive in and start writing it. Now, before I could write it, I left the Detroit News, and before I took a job with the Crisis magazine, I was editor of the Crisis for about a year. Before I took that job, I had a little gap. I started the book, wrote a skeletal version, but then it was just a skeleton. It was finished, but it still needed more. It sat in a drawer for years and years. I took another job, Crisis, then took another job, the magazine, then took another. I didn't have time, as you
Right.
know. Especially when you're editor of a magazine. And I launched the African American
Monthly.
Family Magazine.
Right.
Yeah, I was a founding editor. It takes all your energy.
Mm-hmm.
Then I found myself free for the first time. And that's when I pulled out that skeletal novel. And over the years, I was getting more and more inspired. I'm a Trekkie, and on Star Trek, they went to an all black planet. And it was a nice episode, but they didn't go deep enough for me. So that was like in the back of my mind. Then uh, I happened to attend the melanin lecture, and I was discovering the magical properties of melanin that we as African Americans don't tap into because we have all these other obstacles and problems in the way. If you look at, because of the hierarchy of society, if we look at oppression, if we look at some of the ordeals that we're going through, and then on top of that, some of the diseases in our community. So it kind of prevents us from really realizing uh, what we could do if we fully tapped
Embrace.
into melanin. Right. So I was
Mhm.
thinking about all that. So when I finally had a chance to sit down and pursue this dream further and really develop this novel, this is what came out. Where
Oh my God.
yeah,
I love it. Oh my God. So just reading, you got to pronounce the name of the main character. Is it Lilila?
Lalila.
Lalila. Lalila. Okay, Lalila has just been named the rare indigo beauty among beauties and is about to embrace her stardom until something threatens to change her whole lifestyle and turn the planet of Swambazi upside down.
Yes, yes.
So is this is okay, the planet, okay, say it again.
Swazembi.
Okay, that's what you made up. That's the dream that you saw, or
That's what I created. Yes,
that's what you
yes,
created.
yes.
Okay.
Right.
So was when Wakanda came about and you saw those, was that more or less like, okay, I got to get mine out too type of thing? It's like, people are really interested in this, and it became like the Black Panther people were like, oh my God, people are really looking at this a whole different way. Was that in the process? Was this in the process when those movies came out?
Well, this was written that when I had that break and I wrote the skeletal version, I was like 40 years old. I
Oh my
just turned
God.
40. Yeah, I'm really, it's shocking how long it took. I had that break in between jobs. I wrote it real fast. I wrote it in about 3 months, and then I had to take another job. And so I
Right.
had the skeletal novel, and I think there was nothing to do with it. So I went back to it when I finally got time again. By
Mhm.
then, Black Panther still hadn't surfaced, but as I was working on it, Black Panther happened, and I felt like, huh, when I wrote this decades ago, when I had this idea, the world wasn't ready.
No,
And I
no.
felt like now Black Panther has opened that door. That's the
Mhm,
way I
mhm.
felt. Yeah.
Here's another nonfiction movie I saw. It was True. I think it's True Colors. I believe it is.
I saw True Colors. Yes.
Yes. And you were talking about the melanin and that sort of thing. That kind of remind me a little bit. I started really studying that as well about the magical part of being sun kissed. So having that in your skin, and
Yeah.
that is something that Pa Black Panther kind of like had me on the track of really understanding that sort of thing. I've never been a Trekkie, never been into science fiction. It always seemed to be so scary. Like a lot of them are scary, but this one doesn't have to be scary. So this particular one talks about her embrace of her stardom and her lifestyle. So give us a little bit more about, because what I know about fiction writers is that they have these characters that live in their head and they're real
Yes.
people to them. So tell us about her. Tell us about your alter ego, so to speak.
Okay. So her stardom, Pam, is that she's being named the rare indigo. And the rare indigo is considered the most beautiful woman in the galaxy. The
Wow.
galaxy, we're still in the Milky Way, planet Earth is in the Milky Way, but planet Earth has been destroyed. But this is there are these peripheral planets along the Milky Way where the former residents of Earth, some of their descendants, have, colonized these areas. So
Mhm.
across the galaxy, melanin is revered. And no one has as much melanin as the people of Swazembi. So they're kind of admired, and Swazembi is a tourist planet. So everyone wants to go there because the surface of the planet is just like saturated with these floating colors. These kind of look
Mhm.
like scarves on the
I
cover,
know they
but
are. They're
yeah,
not.
but they're actually it rains this colored mist, and the mist turn into vapors. So the surface of the planet is covered with these neon vapors.
I thought it was
These
like ribbons. Yeah.
Right, a lot of people think that. But anyway, so people live underground. They go to the surface because it's so beautiful and the tourists love the surface, but everyone lives underground. And so they come to Swazembi because they want to experience the color vapors. They're called the drifts. They want to experience something. It's an underground city with rotating, twirling hotels and nightclubs and
Mm.
everything like that. But they want to also experience the way the people travel there in a wind force known as the sweep. So it's like you stand on the platform and this force of currents will absorb you, and you're
Travel.
right from place to place. So they want to experience that. And the third thing they really want to experience is the beautiful rare indigo, who's so beautiful, so dark, her midnight skin shimmers like a diamond.
Wow. Wow. And that's what you kind of could see from from well,
Yeah.
what you saw and then
Mhm.
what the publisher kind of like put together is
Yes,
that
yes.
it does shine like a diamond. Oh my God. Oh
Mhm.
my God. So tell us a little bit. So you gave us a little bit about who who she is and what she's doing now. What is the, I guess you say, the antagonist in
Right, right,
the movie in the
right.
movie. I'm making it a movie already in the book.
So her skin begins to keloid, scab, and
Ah,
she's known for her beauty, and she's pampered, she's spoiled. In the beginning of the novel, she's so spoiled, she irritates some people, but she grows. So she's going through this transformation. Her skin's changing. She's hearing these voices that are the voices of the ancestors. She doesn't know what's going on. And by the way, Pam, where it rains in color is not scary. It's not
okay.
violent. No violence. In fact, some have interviewed me in the book. You're not going to find any in anything that I
Good.
write. So anyway,
Good.
her skin starts to change, and it turns out that there are these beings on another planet who aren't allowed in the coalition of planets. They're not allowed on Swazembi because of their behavior, but they have come up with a cure, and
Hmm.
they try to lure Lalila into going to an asteroid. They You can only accept the cure on their conditions, and their conditions is that you come to the asteroid, whatever, whatever, and that's where the novel changes focus. We go from a utopia, which is the resort planet, to a dystopia, which is everything that happens to Lalila while she's living on this asteroid among others who are afflicted, awaiting her cure. And that's when she discovers that she has this clairvoyant and power, and she's a healer, and she literally has the ability to enter the souls, the bodies of ancestors from the late earth. So she's suddenly catapulted backwards through time. And instead of, she wouldn't be observing like you or me, Pam, she would enter us and become us
Mhm.
and experience what we were experiencing. And in the process, start healing.
Oh my God. So that's where the genre comes from when you talk about that it's the
Mhm.
Afrofuturism. It
Yes.
combines the Black history and the culture and the science
Right.
fiction,
Yes.
the
Yes.
technology, all of that.
All
Now,
of
this genre that I'm ignorant to this now, Denise. So how give me who discovered this? Did you discover this genre? Is that the term that you gave it, or who was the first author in this genre? I guess you would say.
I would say Octavia Butler.
Ah,
Octavia Butler,
okay,
yeah, right.
okay,
Octavia Butler. Well, I mean, we have other Sam Delaney and other Black people who were writing sci-fi a long time ago, but
okay,
Octavia Butler was the first Black woman to write a science fiction novel,
okay.
and I love Octavia Butler. But I would sometimes get online and just watch panel discussions about Octavia Butler, and I remember I was watching one panel discussion, and this was years ago, and they were talking about Afrofuturism, and I began to realize that if you're of African descent and you're catapulting Black people into space, into the future, making us leaders of the galaxy, but then tying in history and all that, then you're claiming the future, which is what we're doing because we have to take control, Pam. They will write us out of the future if we let
Mm-hmm,
them.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So they're saying, have you seen those signs around Detroit that say Black people are part of the future? Haven't you seen any of those billboards? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's basically what Afrofuturism reminds
Ah,
people, that
okay.
we're here and it's not going to be like it was in the past. We're going to change the narrative.
I like that.
Yeah.
So one of the things that it talks about science fiction and fantasy, that opens up a lot of opportunities for Black writers, which I'm glad because a
Hmm.
lot of authors that I deal with, they write a lot of nonfiction, they write a lot of self help, and that's fine. That's good. I find that street lit is another genre, which no shade on it, but it's just is not one of my favorite. Okay, because I just think like, okay, we need to be pulling our people up. This street lit thing is like we whatever. So, are there other genres you would like to see more Black writers published in?
I like magical realism. Are you familiar with that
No,
genre?
no.
That's Gabriel Garcia Marquez, A Hundred Years of Solitude, and then Isabel Allende, House of the Spirits. It seems like a lot of Latino and Latina
Okay.
writers seem to write in this genre. And the thing that's fascinating about it is that there are magical aspects to the book, but it's not science fiction and it's not fantasy. It's just like you think you're reading just contemporary literature, and all of a sudden, a ghost might walk in and everybody acts like it's normal. So that's the thing that's interesting about magical realism is that supernatural events may occur, but nobody is astounded by it. It's just,
Okay.
yeah,
As part of magical realism. I like that. That
yeah,
is very different. So,
yeah.
are there uh, everybody has an association, right? So there's like the American romance writers or the Black
Mhm.
romance writers, or that are there associations for the genre that you're a part of, or are they clumped
I
the same?
wish. I don't know. I got to find out. Thank
Yeah.
you for planting that seed. I'm going to find out if there is one. I do know that there's a T-shirt with black female sci-fi writers on it.
Okay. Okay.
I'd love
Yeah.
to make a T-shirt one day. I don't know how much space they have. I used to fantasize. I'm going to be the first black female sci-fi writer, and then Octavia Butler beat me to it. And I'm like, okay,
Okay.
I'm going to be the second. And then I was like, okay, I'll be the third. I think now I might be 25, but whatever.
Yeah. It's enough for a convention at this point, right? Enough
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
conference.
Enough for a
There is
convention.
a sci-fi. I think it's sci-fi chicks or sci-fi girls. I'm not. It's a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll have to connect you with it. But it is a podcast that you would love
Mm-hmm.
to be a part of. And I think I want to say Sci-Fi Chicks, but anyway, they just started a few years ago before COVID, and they've got thousands and thousands of live downloads. A former client of mine, she was in my branding accelerator, and she was just like a black woman that loved turkey. She would go to all their conferences and conventions and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She says, "I'm gonna start a podcast." She said, "There's a lot
Right,
of people," and so
right.
she would love to talk to you about that, even though it's not Trekkie, but you would, I know you would, because you said
Oh,
that
I
you
would love to. Thank you, Pam. I would love
yeah,
to.
yeah.
Yes.
So, what do you hope that readers will take away basically from the novel? I mean, it seems like a very haven't read it yet. I have it, and like I said, I thought it would be scary, so I didn't delve
Oh,
into it.
no. Pam, you will
But
never get anything from me that's scary. And that might be a misconception people have about sci-fi. And
yeah,
actually a sci-fi fantasy hybrid. I was drawn to sci-fi and like Star Trek because of the philosophical aspect. When they
ah,
take Star Trek to the movies, they become I can't watch Star Trek at the theater, the movie, because then
mhm,
they change it because they're trying to attract more people. So then they're fighting and I can't deal with all that. What
right.
I want the lofty cerebral aspect.
Ah,
I want the
okay.
girl. So in this book, what I'm doing is I'm flipping beauty standards and I'm uplifting Black women. You remember that song, Black Girl, Precious Little Girl, let me lift you up where you belong.
Mhm,
I'm
mhm.
lifting us up where we belong so that we're not the afterthought. She's not beautiful despite being beautiful, despite being dark. She's
Mhm.
beautiful because she's dark. And so that's the message. But inherent in that message, Pam, is the fact that we don't see with our eyes. We see through the lens of social conditioning. And I'm hoping people walk away with that understanding.
I like that. You talk in this a little bit about the descendants of Earth's West African dog Dogon
The
tribe.
Dogon tribe. Oh my God, I'm glad you brought them up, and I'm
Yeah.
glad we have a chance to talk about them. In the course of writing the rewriting the novel the second time around, I discovered, I didn't know this at first, that the people on the planet of Swazembe are the descendants of the Dogon tribe of West Africa. I didn't know that when I first started writing. Now, but I have always been inspired by the Dogon tribe. So let me tell you a little bit about them. They
Okay.
the book is sci-fi, but the Dagon are very real. If you go to West Africa right now and go to Mali, you'll see this tribe that lives on the cliffs of Mali, and they still live in huts. However, they can chart stars and they know more about the cosmos than astronomers in the West.
Oh my
So
God.
the Dagon predicted or told astronomers in the West when they would come through that there's a star. They were talking to them about space, and they said there's a star called Sirius B. There's a star called Sirius that we've known about for years, but astronomers in the West had no knowledge of Sirius B. The Dagon did, and they were telling them about it. And the astronomers said, "There's no other star there." Then they developed more sophisticated telescopes in the West, and they saw it. And so they went
Mm-hmm.
back to the Dagon and they said, "How do you know about this star?" Because
Right.
they have no telescopes, they have no technology. And the Dagon said, and I quote, "Beings came to us in a spinning arc from space, and they taught us all about the cosmos." Of
Wow.
course, no one believes them, so this is known as Dagon mythology, and it's
Okay.
always it's always included as mythology. Well, if you're writing speculative fiction, which is what science fiction falls under, speculative fiction, your job is to answer the question, "What if?" And so my answer to my what if is, what if it's true?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if it's true. So if
Yeah.
it's
How
true,
would they have known? I mean,
right, where did they get it from?
right.
If they know more about they do in the West, but they have uh, no devices, I'm sorry, something
Yeah,
happened. So,
right.
right. So I'm answering, what if it's true? So I feel like prior to the transatlantic slave trade, would it have made sense that these beings from who were educating the people of the Dogon tribe in Mali said to them, "Look, you want to get out of here?" And maybe just took them to another planet. So
Mm.
that's the history of Swazembi, but the Swazembians don't know that. And it's something that Lalila discovers when she taps into her powers and connects with the ancestors. She discovers this mystery, this missing link that they don't know about, that they are the descendants of the Dogon tribe. And she begins communicating with the Dogon, who are really the most fascinating people.
And they're still there. They were never part of the slave trade,
No,
but they were on the west part of Africa.
well, some of them may have because some of them were nomads, and some of them went to Ghana fleeing when Muslim invaders came through. So some of them fleeing may have gotten caught up in it because
Okay.
some of them were, but pretty much the Dogon were left alone
They were left alone.
because of the cliff. But some of them were. Here it is. This is fictitious. So I didn't know that. I discovered that they were descendants of the Dogon on Swazembi when I was doing the rewrite. I started having these interesting coincidences, if you want to call them coincidences. For instance, the Leela's name, uh, before I added the prefix Lee, Leela is a name from Mali, but it was a name that came to me. I
Hmm.
added the Leela, because I was so afraid that Leela sounded too much like Princess Leia from Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that really bothered me. So I said, well, let me add the Lee. But the fact that her name, when I looked it up after I had created it, I looked it up and saw it was a real name and it was from Mali. And then there were other things that kept happening too, and it kept directing me back to Lali. And I already knew about the Dogon and I'd always admired them. And I thought, wait a minute, wait a minute. These are the descendants of the Dogon tribe.
Oh
And so
my
then I started
God.
to write that in. Yeah.
That's why it took so long, because those coincidences had to
Yes.
happen over
Yes.
time. Oh
Yes.
my God. This
Yeah.
sounds amazing. This
Yeah.
sounds amazing. There is a endorsement here by the author of The Circus Infinite,
Mhm.
Quan Wong, I believe. And he
Conlaw. Yes.
is it man or woman? Man?
Man.
Man.
Yes.
He says a captivating story about trusting received wisdom, challenging the status quo, and owning one's power. I loved it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
so, how did he come about, and what genre is he writing from?
the Circus Infinite is also a science fiction novel. And
Okay.
what Khan has written in the Science and Circus Infinite, I read it as well because we're published by the same publisher. Uh,
Okay.
he created a circus in space on another planet, and this circus is on a place called the Pleasure Moon, and
Oh,
it's about this guy who he has this extraordinary ability to do some things with gravity, and so he's being studied by this institute, and he escapes to the Pleasure Moon, and he's working at the circus, and my publisher, Angry Robot, is based in the UK.
oh,
Angry Robot only focuses on science fiction. So they have about close to 130 something authors, and all of us are doing sci-fi and fantasy. And
mhm,
so some of us read one another's stories. And I can't read all sci-fi, Pam. I can't read the violent stuff. But I'm
right.
glad that you brought that up because I can let people know, no, it's not, it's
Nope,
not
nope,
just that's not what you think. It's otherworldly, and it's the kind of thing, to me, good sci-fi makes you think and teaches you something. You know,
It's like it's almost supernatural in a way.
it's
It's
super, it's supernatural, but what it's doing is that it's claiming this space in the future, and it's
mm,
saying that the future is blank. One of my favorite quotes is, "The past may be stained, but the future is spotless." So
Mm,
what it's doing is looking ahead. If you look ahead, it's just a blank canvas.
mhm.
And so as artists, we have the paintbrush and we can paint anything we want. So why not create something new and beautiful and brilliant and different? So what I did is I went with beauty. And so
Mhm.
Swazimbi is absolutely beautiful, but some things happen and she ends up dealing with some hardships. But when you read it, Pam, if you get around to reading it, now that you know there's nothing to be afraid of,
Right,
you'll
right.
see that she grows and she develops this wisdom and knowledge, and then she shares it with everyone. So because as Black women, we're healers, and
Mhm.
she is a healer. That's what she does.
She realized that she was a healer and she was healing through the ancestors.
Yes,
That
yes,
is that is good. This is I love this. I love this genre and I love that you're part of this. And
yeah.
and to do this at the I won't keep harping
No,
on
no, it's okay. It's okay. At the age of
but do it after 7 decades, it's just kind of like it's hope for other people. And then you didn't self-publish, you had a publisher. And
right,
that's just a whole nother conversation for another day, but you have to have a platform and people have to understand what your writing style is, da, 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 this and that. And so you've got it published. And that's like
right.
a major feat. That is a
Yeah.
major feat. And so when you had the signing not too long ago,
I
at
have
the
one coming up. No, at the museum this
oh,
month.
okay. This
Yeah,
week?
yeah. No, this month.
This
I would have told you sooner, but at the Museum of African American History, March 30th, from 6 to 8:30.
I will be there. I will be
Oh,
there.
thank you,
Yes,
thank
for
you.
sure, for sure. That is so cool. That is like our well, before the other museum in DC, that was the largest African American museum in the country. So definitely for sure, I will be there, and definitely will be all over the gram with this book.
Thank you, Pam, and I'm glad
Oh,
that.
that is good. That is good. So yeah, so you're selling this book out, and it's opening people's eyes. And like you said, you wanted you kind of said it's also available in ebook and it's also available in audio book as well. So they can get that
Yes.
as well. Who's doing the audiobook? Did you do the audiobook?
No, and I
Okay.
don't know that the audiobook is coming out this month. It might be
Okay.
coming out in a week or two, but my
Okay.
agent hasn't let me know when it is. And I
Okay.
should
Cool.
add, Pam, that when where Rains in Color was acquired by Angry Robot, they had an open submission period right after the George Floyd Black Lives Matter riots. A lot of publishers across the country and beyond were noticing that they didn't have enough Black writers in all genres. And I guess Angry
Mhm.
Robot was noticing that they didn't have that many Black writers. And so
Wow.
they opened up and they had a Black Voices Matter open submission period
Oh
for
my
that. And
God.
I got in through that door.
That-
And then I found an agent and the whole
mhm.
9 yards. So
Oh my
I was glad that they saw the vision because people used
God.
to say to me when I would talk about the concept, your blue black skin that shimmers and she's considered the most beautiful. And they go, "You think they're going to publish that?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like yeah, especially being from the UK. I mean, it's like, well, they get it, but it is something that yeah, I would say that there's no accidents. I mean, it's definitely a tragedy that George Floyd was murdered. But it just happened to be at a certain point in time in history where there was a camera for the whole world to see. I mean,
Yes.
I've never marched in a before in the 60s. I was too young, and it was the first time in 2020 that I did.
Mhm.
And there was been and across the world. I mean, there have been so many people that definitely became woke after that. And because of that, books like this are being published and probably more that we just don't know
Right.
because of
Right.
that,
Right.
because of the
Yeah.
situation that happened with that, the tragedy that happened with that. But out of that, it was leveraged for good that needed to be changed for a long, long time,
Sure. Yeah.
way before 2020. I mean,
Right.
that's a whole nother story for another day. But thank you so much for writing this book. It's on Amazon. People can get it. They can get the ebook. They can get the regular book. If you're coming to Detroit on March 30th,
Yeah.
you can come to the museum,
Yeah.
actually meet Denise, where she'll be signing it as well. And then also too, you can go to Denise. Is it DeniseCrittendon.blog?
Yes.
Yes, and find out more information
All
for
my events and all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of that
Yeah.
from there as well. So I will be seeing you also too, not only at the end of April, but I mean in the March, but also in April because I'll be in Vegas visiting our friend Margot.
Yes. 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 Yeah. All right.
So cool, cool. So thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really good. Pam Perry's Picks. I like this one. This is really, really cool. And it's really appropriate today too. It's International Women's Day. So this is beyond international. This is like inner galaxy, I guess you say. I don't know what we call it. Whatever.
This is intergalactic.
Intergalactic. Yeah, I know. It's
And
like
March is also the Afrofuturism month.
oh,
It also
really?
is. Yeah, so we
Oh
have
my God.
a
That's
National Reading Month, National Women's Day, whatever, Women's
Afrofuturism.
History Month. Yeah, this is just the
Oh
time
my God,
to
this is
talk
good.
about that.
This is good. I
Mhm.
love it. So thank you so much for doing this. And I will see you. I will see you shortly. Yeah. Cool,
Thank you
cool.
so much, Pam.
All right. Thank
Thank you
you.
for being on.
All righty. Take care. Bye bye.